Abini pressed herself flat against the cool wooden floor, lungs tight as she tried not to laugh at her own foolishness. Her wedding dress, layers of satin, lace, and embroidery, puffed around her like a ridiculous white cloud that refused to cooperate. The veil had somehow tangled itself in the underside of the grand mahogany bed frame. This wasn't exactly how she imagined ending her wedding night, but she had planned a silly surprise for Omari, the man she had married only hours earlier. If this story touched your heart, friends, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more touching stories. Thank you for being here. She imagined him walking into the room calling her name, panicking a little when he didn't spot her right away. Then she would roll out from under the bed like a mischievous ghost in Tool, shout "boo," and watch his face stretch between fear and laughter. That was how it always was between them, playful, light-hearted, full of harmless jokes and nights spent laughing until their stomachs hurt. Omari had once serenaded her from her apartment parking lot at 1 a.m., strumming badly on a guitar while neighbors threatened to call the police. They had been silly adults then, both well into their 30s, but still acting like carefree teenagers. The door clicked open. Abini's smile evaporated. Those weren't Omari's footsteps. They were sharper, more deliberate. A familiar pair of high heels clacked against the hardwood floor. His mother. Zola swept into the room like she owned the place. She had that commanding presence of someone who believed every room was improved by her arrival. "Yes, Shanice, I'm here now," she said into her phone, sinking onto the edge of the bed, right above where Abini hid. The weight shifted the mattress, forcing the bride to flatten herself even more. "No, not a problem at all. The girl is extremely compliant. Too compliant, actually," Zola said with a clipped laugh. "Omari says she's practically an orphan. Her father's some low-level engineer scraping pennies together. I even went to see where she grew up, a run-down shoebox in Dakar. Tragic." Each word stabbed deeper. Tragic? Orphan? Scraping pennies? Her father was a lead engineer heading design at a major defense contractor. And that old apartment Zola had seen, it wasn't where Abini lived. It had belonged to her late aunt, which she kept for sentimental reasons. Their real home was a modern condo in Buckhead with a skyline view. She simply hadn't bragged. She didn't think it mattered. But to Zola, everything mattered if it could be turned into leverage. As if on cue, Zola continued, "Everything is set. They'll live together 6 months, maybe a year. Then Omari tells her they're incompatible. I play my part, complain she's rude, disrespectful, messy, whatever. They separate peacefully. The condo is in her name, yes, but we'll claim it in court. We have all the receipts. And what could a naive girl like her possibly do against us?" The floor beneath Abini felt like ice. Then Zola's phone rang again. "Hello, Omari. Yes, son, I'm in your room. No, she's not here. Probably out celebrating with her little friends. Don't worry, she's already trapped. The ring, the certificate, done deal. Just remember, don't go soft. She needs to know who runs this house from day one." Her heart cracked. Omari! Her Omari! The man she thought she knew. When Zola finally left, the room felt hollow. Abini crawled out slowly, dress wrinkled, veil torn, but none of that mattered anymore. How do you mourn a marriage that ended before it began? Her hands trembled as she reached for her purse. She had pressed record on her phone earlier, expecting to catch Omari's reaction to her joke. Instead, she had recorded everything. And that was the moment something inside her shifted, not into fear, but into cold resolve. But what Abini didn't know yet was that the recording she captured under that bed would only be the first card in a much bigger, far more dangerous game. For several minutes, Abini sat on the bedroom floor, hugging her knees, listening to the echo of Zola's words replaying in her skull. The dress she once adored now felt like a costume for a play she didn't audition for. She wasn't trembling from fear anymore. Rage, betrayal, and cold clarity churned inside her like a rising storm. "She should leave," a part of her whispered. "Grab your bag, walk out the door, and never look back." But a louder voice, a newly awakened one, said, Not yet, not like this. If they wanted a naive bride, they had chosen the wrong woman. She rose, peeled off the dress, changed into jeans and a soft sweater, then stashed her wedding gown deep in the closet. There would be time later to figure out what to do with it, whether to burn it or bury it, she didn't know. Her phone buzzed with a low battery warning. She plugged it into her laptop, transferred the audio file, and saved copies to 2 different drives. If Zola thought she had the upper hand, she was about to need a version of a beanie she hadn't prepared for. The room was quiet, too quiet. Omari was still out. Good, she needed time. Time to build her defenses. Time to ensure nothing they did could trap her. She opened her laptop and pulled up her father's number. He answered on the first ring, voice thick with sleep. "Princess, it's your wedding night. Why are you calling me?" "Daddy," she swallowed hard, "I need to talk business, serious business." That woke him instantly. "What happened? Did he hurt you? Did something happen at the ceremony?" "Not yet," she said carefully, "but I need you to remember something. A few months ago, you offered to transfer your shares of the company into my name. Is that still possible?" Silence, a dangerous silence. "A beanie," he said slowly. "Tell me what's going on." "Daddy, I can't explain everything right now. I will, I promise. Just, can we go to the notary first thing in the morning?" His tone shifted from concerned father to seasoned engineer. Direct, steady, decisive. "I'll be there. And your aunt's condo, too. It's time that goes into your name permanently." Thank you," her voice cracked. "I'll explain everything tomorrow." "No need," he replied gently. "When I met that man, something felt wrong, but you were in love and I didn't want to stand in your way. Just know this, whatever happens, you're not alone." After hanging up, she dialed her best friend and lawyer, Sela. Sela picked up immediately, alarmed. "Girl, it's midnight. Are you okay? Do I need to come get you?" "I need legal clarity," Abini said. "If a condo is in my name before the wedding, can my husband claim any part of it?" "Is this about Omari? Already? You just got married." "Yes, please, just the law." "If you bought the property before marriage and the deed is solely in your name, it is legally separate property. He can only contest if he proves he contributed financially in a measurable way." "That's what I needed. Can you come by at 10 tomorrow?" "Of course, and I'm bringing coffee because whatever this is, it sounds catastrophic." Before she could respond, the front door slammed open. "Abini," Omari called. "Where are you? I drove all over looking for you." His voice used to soothe her, but now she heard the fakery behind every syllable. She stepped down the stairs, feigning calm. "I was just organizing a few things." He enveloped her in a hug she no longer recognized. "Why are you so cold? Are you okay?" "Just tired," she murmured. "Let's get some rest." Tomorrow would not be rest. Tomorrow would be war, because by the time the sun rose, Abini would have allies, evidence, and a plan, none of which Omari or his mother would ever see coming. Omari woke her the next morning with a soft kiss on the cheek. "Good morning, Mrs. Ramos," he murmured, as if everything in their world was pure innocence and new love. Her muscles stiffened. She nearly corrected him. "Vargas, my name is still Vargas." But she caught herself. Not yet. She needed him relaxed, predictable, confident in his false sense of control. "Good morning," she whispered instead, offering a small smile. "Do you want breakfast?" His face lit up. "Coffee and an omelet, if you don't mind. My mom said you're an incredible cook." The irony nearly made her choke. Last night, that same woman claimed her cooking was a disaster, but Abini kept her expressions sweet and gentle. "Of course, you go shower, I'll get things started." As soon as he disappeared into the bathroom, humming an upbeat pop song, she moved quickly. She slid her phone onto the spice rack, hit record, and tucked it between jars of cumin and paprika. Evidence wasn't always about catching crimes, it was about capturing patterns. She opened the freezer, grabbed the box of pre-made pancakes, and popped them into the microwave. No omelet, not today. He could settle for what she gave him. By the time Omari returned, steam curled from the plate of pancakes topped generously with whipped cream and jam. "You made these?" he asked, surprised. "Just for you," she lied with a practiced smile. He took a bite, chewed twice, then frowned. "They're kind of tough." "It's a new recipe, healthier, low-fat," she said calmly, pouring his coffee. "Oh," he forced down another bite. "Well, hey, I was thinking, maybe we should put my name on the condo paperwork too, so I can help handle repairs and HOA stuff." Abini lifted her cup, blowing gently across the surface to hide the fury rising in her chest. "Why would you need to do that? You think I can't manage household logistics?" No, of course you can. I'm the man of the house. It makes sense for me to have access." We'll talk later," she said, placing her cup down deliberately. "I'm seeing a friend today." His face tightened. "Which friend?" "Sila." He relaxed slightly, though not completely. "Fine, but don't be long. Mom's coming for dinner. She wants to see how you're settling in." "Oh, Zola was going to see something, all right." "What does she like to eat?" Abini asked sweetly. "She eats everything, but try something nice. First impressions matter." She nearly laughed, if he only knew what impression his mother had already made. But she just nodded and kissed his cheek lightly. "I'll handle it." The moment he laughed, she bolted for her phone. The recorder had caught everything clearly, especially the part where he declared himself the head of the household and insisted on tying himself to her property. Evidence, clean and simple. At exactly 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Sila stood there with messy red hair, freckles, and her usual "just give me the facts" expression, holding a folder and a giant iced coffee. "All right," Sila said, before even stepping inside. "What inferno did you walk into on your wedding night?" Instead of explaining, Abini pressed play. As Zola's voice filled the room, Sila's jaw slowly dropped. By the end, she was pacing like a lawyer building a case in her head. "Girl, this isn't just manipulation. This is strategic fraud, calculated, cold. We can bury them legally with this." "I don't want revenge," Abini said quietly. "I want protection." Sila grinned. "Protection is my specialty, but after this, revenge is looking tempting." And just when Sila thought she'd heard the worst of it, Abini revealed an even bigger truth, one that would turn their legal strategy into a weapon sharp enough to cut through every lie Omari and his mother had crafted. Silas set her coffee down so hard that some sloshed over the rim. "Okay," she said, palms on her hips, pacing. "We've got a mother-in-law confessing to fraud, a husband in on the scheme, and a bride who overheard everything on day one. That's already a legal goldmine. But why do I feel like you're holding back something?" Abini inhaled deeply. "Because there's one more detail you need before you map out the big plan." Sila narrowed her eyes. Spit. "You know how Omari made the down payment for the condo? How he supposedly covered it?" "Yeah," Sila said. "Classic setup for a fake contribution." "It wasn't his money," Abini said, voice calm but heavy. "It was mine." Sila blinked. "Run that back?" "The funds came from my trust account, the one my father set up when I was 18. I transferred the money to Omari, thinking it was for something we were both invested in. He withdrew the amount in cash and handed it to the seller, right in front of his mother, to make it look like he was the one paying." Silas stared at the documents, then let out a long, slow whistle. "So the entire 'we have receipts' angle is 100% smoke and mirrors?" "Yes, and they don't know I connected the dots." "Oh, this is beautiful," Sila muttered. "Not only do you own the condo outright, but the payment they're bragging about is actually your money. Abini, you just turned their trap into their coffin." Before Abini could reply, the doorbell rang again. Her father stood there with a notary beside him. Kamal looked calm, but his eyes held that sharp protectiveness she'd only ever seen twice before. Once when she nearly got hit by a car at age 9, and once when someone tried to fire her unfairly at a previous job.
"You two are starting early," he said, stepping inside. "Not early enough," Sila murmured, flipping through documents. The notary set everything on the table. "We're here to finalize the transfer of 49% of Vargas Engineering's shares into Miss Abini's name, correct? And the condo at Republic Avenue, full title transfer." As paperwork rustled, Kamal led his daughter aside. "Now tell me, what happened?" She handed him headphones and played the recording. Her father didn't interrupt once. He listened with a stillness that was more frightening than rage. When Zola's voice promised to steal the condo, his jaw tensed. When Omari called her a bird in a cage, Kamal's nostrils flared ever so slightly. When the recording ended, he spoke in a low voice. "They planned to rob my daughter, in my lifetime, in broad daylight?" He exhaled through his nose. "The devils." "Daddy, please," Abini said softly. "Let me handle it. I'm not running." He looked at her, really looked, and something softened. "Good. Your mother would have wanted you strong." His voice thickened. "And you are." By late afternoon, everything was signed. Her father and the notary left. Sila organized the evidence meticulously. "Next step is to gather more," Sila said. "You play the sweet, clueless newlywed, let them underestimate you, and when the time comes, we'll flip the table." Abini nodded. She was ready. That evening, after she picked up groceries, she began prepping dinner for Zola's upcoming visit, if dinner could be defined as a collection of culinary sabotage. Overspiced broth, gluey rice, a salad that could traumatize a stomach, and the pièce de résistance, a cheap cake held together by sugar and wishful thinking. "Oh yes," she muttered, stirring the pot, "let's make that first impression unforgettable." But what Abini didn't know was that this dinner would not only expose cracks in their scheme, but it would also hand her a priceless piece of evidence she never expected to get.
By the time evening arrived, the condo smelled questionable. Abini looked proudly at her chaotic spread. The broth simmered like a witch's potion, heavy on bay leaf and black pepper to give it an aggressive kick. The rice had been cooked into a sticky sludge that clung to the spoon like glue. The salad was a tragic mixture of canned meat, potatoes, and way too much mayonnaise. And the cake, her masterpiece, leaned slightly to the left, a sugary tower of margarine and stale cookies. "This is what happens," she muttered, "when a woman who can't cook tries to impress." At exactly 7 o'clock, Omari returned home. At 7:30, Zola arrived, dressed in crisp, cream-colored slacks and a matching blazer, her hair in a tight twist, carrying an air of superiority like expensive perfume. "Abini, sweetheart," Zola chirped, kissing the air near her cheek. "How are you two settling into married life? I hope you're keeping the place tidy." "We're doing wonderfully," Abini replied sweetly. "Dinner is ready. I made a family recipe." "Lovely," Zola said, eyes scanning the table. "I haven't eaten all day." Omari shot his mother a proud look. "See, Mom? Told you she's becoming quite the homemaker." If only he knew. They sat. The first course was broth. Zola sipped once and coughed so loudly that Omari nearly dropped his spoon. "What on earth is this?" she sputtered, fanning her tongue. "Just a little spice," Abini said innocently. "My grandmother used to make it. Very rustic." "Ah, rustic," Zola repeated, swallowing hard as if the word itself burned. The rice came next. The spoon had to be shaken twice for the lump to slide onto Zola's plate. She stared at it as though it might crawl away. "That's very dense," she murmured. "Good for digestion," Abini replied. Omari poked the rice with his fork like it was a science experiment. "Baby, did you forget to turn off the stove?" "No, I just wanted to make sure it was very cooked." The salad was worse. Zola took one sniff and pushed the plate away immediately. "Oh dear, I'm allergic to mayonnaise," she announced dramatically. Finally came the cake, a leaning tower of sugar and poor decisions. Zola stood up abruptly. "I'm suddenly not feeling well. Stress, probably. Omari, walk me to my car." "Of course, Mom."
As they stepped outside, Abini moved quietly to the window. She didn't need to hear every word. Zola gestured with such ferocity that even without audio, the lecture was obvious. Omari looked like a child getting scolded for misbehaving in school. When he returned, he shut the door harder than necessary. "Abini," he said, arms folded, "what was that dinner supposed to be?" "What do you mean?" she asked softly. "That was awful. You must have messed up on purpose. My mother said—" "Your mother is hard to please. I cooked all day. I wanted tonight to be special." A single tear trickled down her cheek. Perfectly timed. She wasn't an engineer for nothing. She could calculate emotional impact, too. Omari's posture softened instantly. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I shouldn't have snapped. It's just, Mom is particular." "I understand," she whispered, sniffing lightly. "Next time, she can bring her own food." The next several days went by with Omari following his mother's training program. He nitpicked small things, questioned her spending habits, and hinted repeatedly about adding his name to the condo deed. Every day, her phone recorded it all. But the jackpot came one night when Omari's friend Malik visited. The two sat drinking beer, the night growing louder with each bottle. Finally, Omari bragged, "In a year, I keep the condo and walk away free. She can't fight me. Her dad's broke. Mom and I have the plan locked." And the recording captured every reckless syllable. With that recording, Abini had enough ammunition to burn their entire scheme to ashes. But she wasn't done. She planned something far bigger, a public, undeniable reveal that would shatter their confidence in one blow.
After days of recording Omari's slip-ups and subtle attempts at control, Abini knew she had collected enough evidence to flatten their entire operation. But she didn't want a quiet ending. No, she wanted the truth laid bare in front of witnesses. She wanted them caught in their own arrogance. So she made a plan. The first step? Zola. She dialed the woman early in the morning, her voice sugary sweet. "Nam Zola, I wanted to apologize for that dinner. I felt terrible afterward. Would you be willing to come again tomorrow evening? I want a real chance to make things right." There was a pause. Zola was caught off guard. "Well," she said, drawing out the word as if weighing how much flattery she deserved, "I don't know." "Please," Abini whispered, "you're like a second mother to me. I want us to get along." That did it. Compliments were Zola's only known weakness. "All right," she said, dramatically gracious. "I'll come, but remember, I'm very particular about food." "Of course," Abini replied. "I'll prepare something special." When the call ended, a slow smile crossed her face. Step 1 completed. Now step 2, Sila. "Is the big day ready?" she asked when her lawyer friend picked up. "Oh, I've been waiting for this," Sila grinned through the phone. "I have all the paperwork organized, and I have a little extra gift for your mother-in-law." "What kind of gift?" "You'll see. Let's just call it theatrical." Perfect. That evening, Abini casually told Omari, "Your mom agreed to come to dinner." He blinked, surprised. "After what happened?" "I apologized sincerely. I told her I wanted us to have a healthier relationship." Omari smiled approvingly. "That's good. Mom values respect. Maybe you two just got off on the wrong foot." "Oh, darling," she thought, "if only you knew how right you are and how wrong you're about to be." "Hey," she added lightly, "what if we invite Malik and Talia too, and maybe Amare? A little family dinner." Omari liked the idea instantly. "Yeah, that'll smooth things. Mom loves them." Excellent. Witnesses were now secured. The next day, Abini spent the afternoon transforming the condo. She ordered delicious catered food, actual gourmet dishes this time, and arranged the table with fresh flowers, new linens, and candles. The atmosphere was warm, welcoming, deceptively serene. At 7 sharp, guests began to arrive. Malik and his wife Talia came first, all smiles. Then Amare with his easy laugh.
Finally, Zola swept in wearing a navy dress and diamond earrings, clearly expecting a red carpet welcome. "Oh my," she said, looking impressed. "This is much better." "I'm glad you like it," Abini said sweetly. Conversation flowed easily at first. Toasts were made, people laughed. Zola even softened, sharing childhood stories about Omari, how he once refused to eat anything ugly and demanded only star-shaped food for a week. Omari was embarrassed but proud. Everything seemed to be going perfectly, which is exactly why Abini stood up, tapped her glass gently, and said, "Before we continue, I want to share something important, something I accidentally recorded on my wedding day." She pulled out her phone. Omari's smile dropped. Zola stiffened. The room fell into a hush. Then the first recording played, Zola detailing the divorce plot with icy precision. Every word poured into the room like poison spilling from a cracked bottle. Everyone stared at Zola, then Omari, then back at Abini. This is fabricated," Zola shrieked, face drained of color. "Oh, then perhaps you can explain this, too," Abini said calmly, switching to Omari's drunken confession with Malik. Talia covered her mouth in shock. Malik looked at Omari like a stranger. Amare muttered, "Damn." Then, ding-dong, right on cue. Sela walked in, holding a large envelope and wearing the smirk of someone who came prepared to light a match. What Sela handed Zola next wouldn't just expose the scheme, it would render the once untouchable matriarch powerless in seconds.
Sela stepped inside like an attorney entering a courtroom she already knew she would win. Her heels clicked against the floor with perfect confidence, and she nodded politely to the stunned guests before locking eyes with Zola. "Good evening," she said, her voice too pleasant to be anything but dangerous. "Mrs. Ramos, I believe this is for you." She handed Zola the thick envelope. Zola accepted it with trembling fingers. Her manicure, flawless as always, suddenly looked like cheap polish. She ripped open the envelope, then froze. What is this?" she stammered, scanning the pages with widening eyes. "A criminal complaint draft, prepared after a little digging." Omari stepped forward, pale. "Sela, what are you doing?" "My job," she replied sharply, "and my job uncovered something interesting. Something about your father's death, Mrs. Ramos." A beat of silence fell so heavy it felt like gravity increased. Zola's throat bobbed. You can't accuse me of... "No one's accusing," Sela said coolly, "just sharing findings." She tapped the document lightly. "Your late husband died suddenly. No autopsy was performed, no toxicology, and the cremation was arranged unusually fast. By you." Murmurs swept across the room. "That's enough," Zola hissed. But Sela continued, calm and merciless. "A nurse at the clinic, who remembered you clearly, reported seeing you tampering with your husband's IV the night before he passed." Zola's legs faltered. She collapsed into the nearest chair, her face drained of every hint of superiority. It's a lie," she whispered. "A complete lie." Sela shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not. A full investigation would tell us, and with your attempted real estate fraud against Abini, the prosecutors will have plenty of motivation to reopen cold files." A gasp rippled around the table. Even Omari looked sick. "Mom, is any of that true?" "No," she cried. I loved your father." "Loved him so much you took everything after he died? Every property, every account? Interesting definition of love." "I did not," Zola shouted, but her voice cracked. The queen had fallen, and now everyone could see it. But Abini stepped in then, her tone quieter yet sharper than anything Sela had delivered. "I'm not pressing charges today," she said, turning to both mother and son. "Not for the condo, not for the divorce scheme, not for any of it. But that depends on your next move."
Zola lifted her head, eyes wide and terrified. "You're going to stand up," Abini said. "You're going to walk out the door, and you will never appear in my life again. No visits, no calls, no messages, no interference. If you ever try to contact me or pressure Omari or touch what's mine, everything goes straight to the authorities." Zola stared, broken, humiliated, but aware she had no ground left. Omari swallowed hard. "Mom, go." The command shocked her, but she obeyed. She stood, shaky, and walked to the door. Before leaving, she looked back at Omari one last time. He didn't look at her. The door slammed. The sound echoed like a verdict. Talia turned toward Malik, her voice low but furious. "We're leaving, and when we get home, you're explaining why you knew about this condo scheme." Malik followed silently, eyes on the ground. Amare awkwardly excused himself too. Within minutes, the lively dinner became a hollow, echoing room filled with the wreckage of pride, betrayal, and spilled illusions. Only Sila, Abini, and Omari remained. Omari opened his mouth slowly. "Abini, she said quietly. "Don't you dare. Pack your things." His eyes welled. "Can we try to fix this? Just talk?" "No," she said firmly. "You didn't choose me. You chose her plan. You chose greed. You chose lies. Now choose the door." 30 minutes later, he left with a suitcase and a shaking voice. "Aini, I loved you." She closed the door behind him. "No," she whispered. "You loved the idea of owning me." Sila wrapped her in a tight embrace. "You did it," Sila murmured. "You fought back." "For once," Abini said, letting herself cry. "I didn't hide." She wiped her face and exhaled. But life wasn't done with her yet, not even close. Because although the marriage ended quietly and cleanly, fate was preparing to bring someone entirely new into her life. Someone who would change her story far more than Omari ever could.
The days following Omari's departure were strangely quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet in the way a storm leaves behind an eerie stillness after tearing through a city. Abini went through the motions of life, returning to work, answering emails, checking on her father. She cooked for herself again, real meals this time, and slept with her phone beside her, not out of fear, but out of a lingering habit of vigilance. The divorce papers were filed quickly and without dispute. Omari didn't dare contest anything, not after Sila had delivered that beautifully crafted threat disguised as a legal courtesy. And Zola vanished from the map. No calls, no appearances, not even a shadow. Her silence was almost unsettling. Yet, even as the dust settled, something in Abini felt unfinished. She wasn't broken, just hollow in the spots where trust used to live. Still, she reminded herself daily, you survived, you rebuilt, you won. One chilly morning, 3 weeks later, she carried a stack of folders into her office building. She pressed her shoulder against the door, struggling with the weight. Just as she started losing grip, a warm baritone voice beside her said, "Need a hand?" Before she even turned, the door was pulled open effortlessly. She glanced up, and the words caught in her throat. The man standing there looked striking. Not model perfect, not polished, but striking in that way certain people are when they radiate a grounded calm. He was tall, with sun-kissed brown skin, a trimmed beard, and eyes so steady they seemed to hold their own quiet universe. "Oh, thank you," she said quickly, stepping inside. He smiled. Not flirtatious, not performative, just warm. "No problem," he said. "You work on the 9th floor?" "Yes," she said, surprised. "How did you know?" "You look like someone from the 9th floor," he shrugged, amused. She blinked. "Is that a compliment?" "Absolutely." He extended his hand. "I'm Thorne. I'm consulting for the engineering team for a few months." "Ah." She shifted the folders to one arm and shook his hand. His grip was firm but gentle. "I'm Abini." His eyebrow lifted slightly. "Vargas? From Vargas Engineering? Your father's the lead there, right?"
Yes, she said, nodding. We work on some projects together. Then we'll probably cross paths, he said, with a smile that felt inexplicably genuine. See you around. He stepped into the elevator, doors closing between them. She inhaled slowly, not understanding why her heartbeat had picked up. Relax, she told herself. You're not ready for anything. You're barely patched together. Yet she caught herself smiling as she walked into her office. Over the next few weeks, Thorne seemed to appear in the most unexpected places, holding the door open, fixing a glitching printer, helping interns carry heavy equipment. Each time he greeted her with a calm nod or a soft, "Morning, Abini," and each interaction left her with a peculiar warmth she didn't want to examine too closely. He never hovered, never flirted awkwardly, never pushed. He simply existed near her orbit, steady, solid, and strangely comforting. One afternoon, after a long meeting, he passed by her desk with 2 cups of tea. They ran out of coffee, so I brought the next best thing. She hesitated, then accepted. Thank you. I figured engineers run on caffeine and spite, he added with a dry laugh. She finally laughed too, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in months. For a moment, she felt something loosen inside her, something she hadn't thought she'd get back so soon. Ease. But fate wasn't done weaving new threads, because later that same week, as she crossed the lobby after work, she spotted Thorne near the front doors, speaking quietly with security. His expression was serious, urgent. When he saw her, his voice dropped lower, and in his hand was something that made her stomach twist. A familiar envelope, one addressed to her. Abini, he said, stepping forward, I think you need to see this. Because whatever was inside that envelope wasn't just a message, it was a warning, and it meant her past with Omari and Zola wasn't finished after all.
Thorne held the envelope as if it were made of glass, careful and deliberate. The lobby was nearly empty, the echo of footsteps bouncing off polished tile. When he handed it to her, his eyes stayed fixed on her face, as though he was assessing how fragile she was, how much weight she could carry. It was left at the front desk, he said quietly. No return name, no postage. Someone delivered it by hand. Her stomach tightened. She recognized the handwriting instantly. Zola. Thorne seemed to sense her reaction. You want me to stay while you open it? She hesitated, clutching the envelope. No, I should do this myself. He nodded but didn't walk away. He simply stepped back, giving her space but staying near enough that if she collapsed, he'd catch her. With a steady breath, she tore the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Just one sentence. You may have won the battle, but you don't know who else was involved. No signature, no threats, no explanation. Just implication. Layers and layers of implication. Her pulse accelerated. She read it twice, 3 times. The handwriting was unmistakable, but the content, this wasn't Zola's style. Zola bragged, postured, gloated. Threats were her favorite language. This letter was different, sharp, cryptic, measured. Someone else was behind the plan? Someone above her? Thorne watched her, expression unreadable. Bad news? Unfinished business, she murmured, and I don't know who started it. He folded his arms gently. Do you want help? Abini blinked at him. Why would you help me? You barely know me. That's not true, he said calmly. I've watched you walk into meetings like you own the place. I've seen how your team respects you, and today I saw fear in your face. That's enough for me. Her breath caught, not from attraction, but from the unfamiliar comfort of being supported without expectation. Still, she shook her head. I can't drag someone else into this. Too late, he said softly. You're already in something bigger than you think. She folded the letter. Thorne, I don't even know what this means. It means, he said, stepping slightly closer, someone wants you to look over your shoulder. Why? He tilted his head. Because they're scared. You don't warn the powerless, you warn the dangerous. Her fingers trembled and he noticed. Hey, he said gently, you're not alone in this. Those words hit harder than the letter.
After filing a report with security, she left the building with Thorne walking beside her. The cold air slapped her cheeks, grounding her. When they reached her car, he paused. "If anything else happens, call me." She managed a small smile. "I barely know you." "Then start," he said simply. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Something about him felt safe, steady, like a man who didn't need to pretend to be good. He simply was. "Thank you," she finally said. He nodded once and stepped away. That night, alone in her condo, she stared at the letter again. Every instinct told her this wasn't over. Zola may have been the visible enemy, but someone else had been pulling the strings quietly. Maybe someone from Omari's side of the family. Maybe someone with financial motives. Maybe someone who wanted access to her father's company. She placed the letter inside a folder marked Evidence. Then she turned off the lights and stood by the window, watching the city breathe beneath her. She wasn't scared, not anymore. She'd faced deceit, cruelty, and manipulation, and survived all of it. But she was alert and ready. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "You should be careful who you trust." Another message immediately after, "especially the ones who show up out of nowhere." Her heart thudded. She typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. She turned slowly toward her door, toward the world outside, realizing her story wasn't ending. It was just beginning, because while she had escaped one trap, a much larger web was waiting, and the next person to reveal their true intentions might be someone she least expected. If today's story touched your heart or kept you hooked, you can show your love by sending a super thanks. Your support helps me continue creating more powerful life stories for you. Thank you truly for always being so kind and supportive. I can't wait to read your thoughts about this story. On your screen right now, you'll find 2 new stories that I highly recommend, filled with emotions, twists, and lessons. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for many more inspiring life stories. Until the next one, sending you love, respect, and gratitude. See you in the next story.